Hello everyone, good evening. We have Mr. Aditya, is the trainer. So is the one going to give you overview about the course today and also for the upcoming sessions for the AWS data engineer. Before going to start the session, can you brief about yourself? Like what you do, how many years of experience do you have, which domain you're working currently? I'll start with like Abhishek. Abhishek, can you brief about yourself?
Yeah, hi. This is Abhishek. I'm working as a front-end developer and having 4 years of experience.
Hi, Abhishek.
Yeah.
And Ashish? Ashish, you can unmute and speak. Dilip?
Hello, hi.
Hi, Dilip.
Hi, it's me, Dilip here. So I'm working as a data scientist. I've been working from last 1 year, and before that, I was working into data analysis. So yeah, so now the thing is the project what I'm working is it's mostly I'm working in AWS. So that's the reason I want to learn a bit of data engineering because here we have to create our own data pipelines when we are working on this data science project. So yeah, that's the main reason I'm looking for something to learn data engineering. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yep.
Durga Prasad?
Yes, actually, I'm working as a SQL developer and Hadoop for big data also. Previously, fully completely on databases side. So I last 2 years onwards, I moved to the Hadoop and big data side. So I want to learn AWS. Yeah.
Thank you. And Jeffy? Jeffin, can you brief about yourself? And Srikanth? And Jeffin.
Hello. My name is Jeffin, and currently I'm working as a web application developer, one of them.
I think there is issue with the audio. You can you rejoin with your earphones or something.
Okay.
Thank you. And Srikanth? Srikanth, you can unmute to speak. Or if you have any issues, you can drop me a message in the comment box. Yeah, Aditya, you can go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Ganesh. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for joining on a weekend. Thank you for joining this workshop. So today we are going to deep dive into one of the important aspects of today's engineering world, which is data engineering. And also we'll try to give you a glimpse of what AWS data engineering is about, what is cloud computing is all about. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay. Okay. So I'm on the first slide, which talks about what is data engineering, right? So data engineering in today's world is a crucial aspect of our data lifecycle. It involves what? Designing, building, and managing the infrastructure that enables us to collect, store, process, and moreover, analyze the data. Not only analysis, it allows us to build AI and ML model on top of it, right? So think of it as the foundation on which data-driven organization can be built. So what is an example of data-driven organization? So example can be any organization which uses data heavily. So we have social media platforms that uses data heavily. So these have a very good data engineering backbone. Similarly, organizations that work with analytics, for example, pharma industries, right? So they have a very good data engineering backbone. So the importance of data engineering lies in its ability to facilitate the flow of various sources of data storage system. For example, databases, right? Data lakes, data warehouses, normal flat files, data sitting in our legacy system. When I say legacy system, it means our on-premise servers. So this process involves, cleaning of the data, right? Then we are going to transform the data, right? And then once the data has been transformed, we have to load it into our analytical databases where lot of analytics and machine learning models can be built on top of it, right? So in my basic intro about data engineering, I have talked lots and lots about analytics, lots and lots about AI ML, lots and lots about moving data from here and there. So that means the data engineering goes hand in hand with data science, AI and ML, right? So there is no AI ML without getting proper data. So if some person is building any model, they need some good amount of data on which they can proudly or with confidence build a model. Therefore, there is an utmost requirement of data engineering in today's world. So, there is a fact which I keep on hearing or, seeing on LinkedIn or any of the platform that 10 years back, the amount of data generated within a day, which is 24 hours, the same amount of data we are generating within a minute itself today. That means the size of the data is growing massively across 10 years. And there is a report by Statista and Gartner that this data is going to grow exponentially. But there is a caveat, right, guys? This data is not very, structured. We are generating a lot of unstructured data in the form of videos, text, messages, tweets, and all, right? So this data needs to be processed properly, masked properly before anything can be built or the data can be used. So who is going to do these things, right? So here comes the role of data engineer, or say data engineering in general, right? So you can imagine the amount of scope of data engineering and the amount of data which is coming in. The requirement of data engineering is going to flourish in future, right? Okay, so moving on, I won't take much of the time about data engineering because you guys already knew few things about data engineering and therefore you have joined this workshop. So quickly moving to, first of all, what is cloud, right? So cloud, the picture that you see with the red cross button is not the cloud here that we're going to talk about, right? Cloud is something that sorry. Okay. So cloud is something that you see on the bottom left, right? So cloud is nothing but server located far away from our reach, right? So they are also set of machines that has been placed far away from our reach that we can access through over the internet itself. So let's take an example itself. Okay, so you guys probably having your phones, laptops, and personal computers. When we say personal computer, we used to have CPU, right? Laptop also have CPUs. Phones in some way also have CPUs, right? So what these CPU look like? So they look like, in the older versions, they look like a giant boxes where you can fit in your CD, drive, ROM, RAM, everything, correct? So they look like a rack, right? Similarly, think of cloud, the same CPU that we uses with our personal computers. But the only difference is that the size of these CPUs are so massive that people can, walk around the cloud buildings itself, right? Because they have huge capacity to store data. Second thing is they are far away from our reach and we can interact with these cloud servers over the internet easily, right? So on my right hand side, there is a basic comparison of how different cloud providers are doing at this moment in the market. So this stat is from Statista, which is one of the leading statistic organization that do these statistics on ground and come up with these numbers. So this data is from Q1 2023, and as per them, AWS is leading or winning the market at this moment, and it has been doing consistently from the last 10-12 years. Followed by Azure, we have GCP, and followed by some other clouds. And why I put this picture here, because I want to emphasize the importance of learning AWS as a cloud in today's world, because AWS is growing at a massive pace that none other cloud is matching. And therefore, if we are on the wagon wheel of AWS, we are highly likable by the different recruiters and organizations available in the market. So having said that, right, I just want to touch base upon what is AWS cloud computing is all about, right? So we already, build a basic understanding of what is, cloud servers is, right? What exactly the cloud servers is. They are basically some type of CPUs that exist beyond our reach in some locations that are very secure, very guarded, that have, resilient and robust mechanism, right? So I now want to emphasize a little bit upon what is, cloud computing is all about, right? As I've already mentioned, AWS is a leading cloud service platform that offers a wide range of cloud-based computing resources and services, right? So it enables organization to access on-demand computing power, storage, and other resources without having to manage physical hardware. Okay, so when I say this statement, without having to manage the physical hardware, what it means. So let's take a quick example. Okay, so imagine you are going on a trip to a different country, or say to a different city, and you will be spending 7 days, say 7 days over there in that country or in that city. So for that 7 days travel, you require a car to commute from one place to another. Okay, so for that car, what you will do, like there are two options. One is you can purchase the cars, of course, right? Second option is you can rent the car and give only the money for those 7 days. The responsibility of managing the car, the responsibility of taking licenses for the car, right? Maintenance of the car will be on the owner of the car, which is not going to be you, because you are going to rent it and you are only going to pay for that 7 days only. Or the first option is you always can buy the car and use it for 7 days, but after 7 days, it will be a waste for you, because you are, coming back to your country or your city and you cannot use it any further. So similar principle applies back in cloud computing itself, because in cloud computing, you need not to build huge server spaces on your own. You need not to manage those huge server spaces, right? What you can do is you can go to AWS cloud. You can ask for those resources for the time you want to use it. For example, you want to build a AI ML model, or you want to build a data engineering pipeline first, and you want it to be for 1 month only because of some urgent work. And this requires huge amount of power. When I say power, it means huge amount of compute and machines. So compute is directly meaning huge amount of CPU memory. For example, it needs 10 terabyte memory. I am taking a example, right? So in that case, what you can do for 1 month, you will buy, right, that 10 terabyte type of computing machine, which is going to cost you a lot of dollars. Or there is another option wherein you can go to AWS, ask for that type of memory, because AWS has lot of memory, right, in their servers. Ask for it, rent it for 1 month, build your pipeline, do your analysis, right, and deploy everything. And after 1 month, you will say, okay, I'm done with my work. Please, stop my subscription. I am not going to pay you further. So that way you will save lot of money. You will save lot of time, managing your servers altogether. And this is the basic meaning of the word, that we are not going to physically manage our hardware. Okay, having said that, if this point is clear, I would like to move on a little bit in a detail about what cloud computing is, right? So it is a way how business operates by providing flexible, cost effective, and scalable solution, right? So when I say cost effective, it probably be already be clear by the few examples that I have given already, why it is cost effective as compared to other solutions. Now I have used a word called scalable, right? So what exactly scalable means? So scalable in this example, it means, or say in the term of cloud computing, so as soon as my requirement increases, for example, I'm using 10 terabyte memory now. Because of some additional load, I need additional 2 terabyte of memory. So AWS is not going to shy away. It is not going to deny that additional memory. You just need to ask, AWS will provide, and it's not going to be asking like you need to write some emails and all. It just happens automatically. As soon as AWS sends that you require more memory, it automatically scale your servers to meet that demand, and this happens automatically. No need for do any manual intervention in this case. So that is all about AWS and benefits of AWS. Okay, so there are a couple of, say, resources which are heavily or widely used in industry which AWS provide. One of them is Amazon EC2 machines. So EC2 machines are nothing but the servers that you happen to use whenever we used to deploy any application, whenever we used to deploy any database and all. So this Amazon provides with the name called EC2. One of the popular service and the first service Amazon started is S3. So S3 is nothing but simple storage service, which is a bucket, or say a place where you can store your files, or say your data in the form of objects, right? So that what AWS is providing. It's one of the highly used, scalable, and highly beneficial, and one of the cost effective service available. Third service is AWS Lambda, which is heavily used across industry. I'm just giving you names, right? So these all service we are going to talk about in detail when we are going to see the actual demo and the actual classes all together. But I'm just giving the heads up what AWS is all about and what all services AWS provides. It provides services for database, it provides service for AI ML, it provides service for queuing, messaging service, and whatnot. Okay, having said that, right, since we have established the base, and since I want to talk more and more about these services in details, so what we did is we created a basic plan, right, that we want you guys, right, to go through it basically, so that you will be more apprised of how AWS different services has been used in order to deliver the data engineering work. In short, in a life of a data engineer, what all services a data engineer uses to successfully fulfill his work end to end, right? So AWS data engineer, or say a data engineer, works mainly in two type of scenario. One is batch processing. Second one is the real-time processing. When I say real-time processing, it means the streaming data when data is coming from social media very fast, and in real time you are processing it. For example, if someone posts a photo on any social media, right, automatically your friends will be notified, hey, your friend has put a photo on the social media platform. And once your friends start seeing the photo, they can either comment on it, they can like it, dislike it, whatever. In real time you will see these feeds coming in, right? You need not to wait 1 day, 2 day, 3 days to get this information. This is a streaming. This is a quick example of streaming. So in this course we are going to talk about all these different use cases. So first of all, I want start with SQL basics and Python. Reason because in a world of data engineering, data analytics, or say AI, ML as well. SQL and Python play a major role, right? They are the stepping stone of any data-oriented work, right? So once we will be done with this, we want to move on to Spark. Reason why we want to touch base on the Spark, because data engineer nowadays deals with lot of data. Spark is one of the functionality which enables us to deal with the big data, and therefore before going actually into data engineering or say the AWS services, we want to touch base on Spark as well, so that these concepts when come in the real world, you will not shy away talking about it. You will not shy away, working on it. So PySpark is nothing but an extension of Spark itself, right? So we want to, touch base on PySpark as well, because when we start working on the data pipelines, we are going heavily using PySpark, and therefore we should be well versed with PySpark. And no problem if you don't know. I'm going to talk about all these things in detail when we go into the detailed session going forward. Now, once we have set up our basic orientation of how we are going to handle the data, we will be going into different use cases of AWS services. S3, as I have mentioned, is one of the most popular service of an AWS that we are going to talk about in detail, and we are going to do lot of hands-on projects on S3. Similarly, Lambda, similarly Kinesis. Kinesis is nothing but used for streaming use cases. Redshift. So I have heard that there is someone on the call from the database side as well. So that person maybe or may not be knowing that Redshift is used, or is one of the best cloud database servicing provider, right? It's one of the best database available in the market. It is used for storing historical or analytical data, right? When we're done with say Redshift, we want to talk about Glue and Athena. Okay, so Glue, guys, is one of the most important service of AWS that a data engineer or say any person who is dealing with data is going to use. Why? Because Glue is an ETL tool designed by AWS itself for the sole purpose, right? So ETL, what is mean by ETL? ETL is nothing but extract, transform, and load. It is the basic backbone of any data processing system where we extract data from somewhere, we transform it, and we load it, right? This is what I talked about in the very beginning, what a data engineering role is about, right? It is extracting data from various sources, doing some transformation, and then loading it back. So Glue is that tool specifically built for this use case altogether, right? So once we will be done with these AWS services, we are going to cover a lot of different AWS services that a data engineer uses day in, day out. I haven't mentioned all these services because I want to highlight the major important one. We will be working on a lot of use cases available that are actual real-time AWS use cases that a data engineer practice day in, day out. Once we are done with these things, we are going to work on 2 different case studies where we will be building 2 real-time data engineering pipeline solely based on AWS altogether, right? So before starting this workshop or before starting this training, right, whenever we start this training in detail, what I expect from you guys is to have AWS free account so that whatever we discuss, we can practice and build on its own. Okay, no need to worry, right? I'll explain everything, how we can create AWS free account and all these steps are very detailed, right? Okay, so a quick glimpse on all the topics that we want to cover. So in SQL and Python, we want to cover these many topics. I'm not going to waste any further on what these topics are all about. So basically, in a summary, SQL and Python we are going to talk about that will be used heavily for data engineering work. Similarly, Spark, right? So I'm going to talk about these topics about Spark so that whenever we work on data engineering side of things, we won't be shying away from Spark altogether. Similarly, PySpark, how we can set PySpark up, how we can write code in PySpark, what is the language, right? How we can load the data, how we can process, right? So how we can work with SQL, right? how we can work with streaming use cases in PySpark and all. Now, Airflow, I want to talk about because Airflow is an important orchestrating tool that we use in our data engineering world. I want to talk about Airflow, not today, but in the later sections. S3, so basic things about S3 and detailed things about S3. Everything will be covered. Kinesis, we want to talk about. So after Kinesis, I want to talk about Redshift, AWS Glue, and Athena, right? So there are a lot of topics with respect to these AWS services. And in the end, I want to discuss, right, AWS integration in different use cases, right? So there are a lot of AWS services that we'll be using and discussing further in our course going forward. For example, step functions, for example, SQS, SNS, and there will be, in the end, some assessments and end-to-end projects, and I'll help you out in preparing for some interviews with mock interviews as well. So we have a dedicated team for this. Apart from that, I'll give you 2 different case studies on ETL pipeline. We are going to build those ETL pipeline altogether that is coming from real world use cases that are available publicly on AWS websites, right? So that's it from the presentation side of things, right? I'll take a moment, I'll take a pause, and I'll wait for any question from you. And if not, then I'll quickly, jump to a quick demo of how the AWS console look like and how we can use different AWS services. And I'll quickly show you one very simple streaming basic pipeline, right? It's not a full-fledged pipeline, but just to give you a flavor of how streaming pipeline look like how we can build it in AWS services. I'll show you that. So I will take a pause. I'll wait for any question if you have any. Ganesh, if you can, monitor the chat. If there's any question over there, I'll take it up.
Ashish, you're asking something. PySpark under Spark. You can admit and speak, Ashish.
Yeah, so my question is related to the PySpark and Spark. How much important it is to learn the Spark and PySpark? Means how much we have to hands on it. Means it's an extensive knowledge required on it, or a brief idea about it sufficient.
Okay, so that's a very good question, Ashish. Thanks for putting it up. So Spark and PySpark knowledge is essential for a data engineer, because when we say data engineer, it has to deal with lots and lots of data, but it is not always 100% required, or say it is not 100% required that you will be working on PySpark. You can only work with a basic Lambda, wherein you will not be using PySpark altogether. But if we are working towards building a complete data engineering, or say a complete data engineer, it is essential, very essential to know Spark and PySpark. It is the backbone of big data processing, which will going to help you, if let's say not today, then in future for sure, because the volume of the data is increasing humongously.
Abhishek, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so
Leap, do you have any questions? And Anand?
What would be the class timings?
Okay.
That I can discuss with you personally. So let me talk to everyone, then I will. And Durga Prasad?
Nothing, Ganesh. I will discuss it later.
Is EMR service also would be covered?
yes.
One thing, Aditya, I don't have any pre-knowledge on AWS. Are you going to teach from the basic from the AWS? Or,
Yes, of course. So I'll discuss, me and Ganesh will discuss separately with you on this, how we can prep you up with the basics, right? So that you can match up the pace of the course.
Okay. Once the course completed, how strong we are in the US level means the data how many years level to this?
Sorry, your voice is
Um,
breaking
I did-
between.
Yes, yes, sir. Actually, I'm asking completion of the how experience comparable.
Ganesh, are you able to pick up the question?
Hello. Aditya, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, can you?
Actually,
please
what
repeat?
I'm asking, once completion of this course, how many years of experience we can able to deal this training
Okay.
experience?
Okay. So, so this is a question that I would like to, address it differently. For example, like, so once we, finishes this course, so while the journey of this course, I am going to touch base with you, right, to check your maturity about the data engineering world. And this course is not only about theoretical, that I'm going to only teach about, okay, what a service is all about. I am going to discuss the real-time implementation. Side by side, we will be doing the real-time implementation of these things on AWS itself. And therefore, I mentioned previously that the prerequisite of this course is we need AWS free tier account. And I'm going to help you how to create one, right? So now going to the question, how the journey is going to be look like, in the end, how it is going to be look like. So since we are going to discuss about each and every aspect of data engineer in detail, moreover, we are going to discuss about the case studies, the real world projects that are available online by the AWS itself. We are going to discuss all these things about it, right? And not only that, we have some classes planned for doing preparations for you for the interviews, right? So in that, we will help you prepare how you can crack data engineering examination, right? And depending upon your existing experience and the maturity of this domain, we can come up with a certain experience altogether, right? So it can vary person to person. There is no right number for everyone that I can fix. For example, if a person is 1 year experience, we cannot quote he knows 5 years of data engineering, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I completely understand. Okay, thank you. And one more thing, last question. Are you going to help any certification in the AWS?
So
In
that is,
the training, meanwhile, you're going to discuss with
yeah,
the
yeah,
certification
yeah,
topics also.
yeah. So all these topics that I, mentioned here are part of the AWS data certification curriculum, either data practitioner, either data developer, AWS developer, or either AWS architect. All these topics are part of it. If you want to prepare about the full certification, we can connect additionally on that note altogether, right?
Okay, thank you, Aditya.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. Actually, I have two things to check. The first thing is when you told like we'll be discussing about Redshift. At the same time, are we going to discuss about AWS Aurora as well? Because I see a few companies they are using both the databases in AWS Redshift as well as Aurora.
Okay, that's a very good question. Reason because I put Redshift is because Redshift is the widely used analytical database available, which
Yeah.
data engineers day uses day in, day out. But let's say if there is an additional lead of discuss of any other additional service, so we can touch base and discuss that topic. But I don't want to, create additional topics in this course because it will impact the timeline that we have in
Yeah.
mind. But if a person needs some additional inputs on some additional services, we can definitely dedicate time with that person on those services, because right, that service will be of interest to that person only. We don't want others.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the second thing I want to check is, you are told that we will be going through some case studies, I mean, real-time projects.
Absolutely.
So can we add those real-time projects in our resume? So will it help to any extent in interviews and stuff?
So when you say you can add it to your resume, so the responsibility of explaining that resume will be on you, but
Exactly.
definitely you can talk about those projects, because whenever we go in interviews, we talk about lot of projects. Some may have done in our organization, some we have done in our free time, right? So this
Exactly.
project, since it is not you are doing for your organization, but you can definitely talk about, because that is something you have done in and out, right? With this training itself. Yes, you can definitely talk about.
Okay, and one more thing is, can we get, like help? Like, for example, I'm working in a company, but I'm working as a data analyst, but I was not working as a data engineer. So will I get in my resume help? Can anyone assist me, like how I can convert my present work exposure into data engineering, and how to build my resume and something like that?
Ganesh has, yes, I believe Ganesh has some services on it as well. So,
Okay,
we can
perfect.
connect offline.
Yeah.
Then discuss.
Okay,
I'll
perfect.
talk to you. I'll talk to you about this.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Any more questions?
Srikanth or Jafin?
Is CI/CD also covered?
CI/CD, I want to cover, but the timeline that Ganesh is come up is a little stagnant. But if required, we can extend and include CI/CD as well, right? So I'll take the interest from the whole group, and basis that who all are interested in learning CI/CD, we will work on it, because as soon as we include CI/CD, it becomes some bit of DevOps engineering as well. But since this course is dedicated only on the data engineering, therefore at this moment not including CI/CD. But if we have seen good amount of interest for CI/CD, for example, Aurora as well, right? So if there is a requirement for Aurora, there's a requirement for CI/CD, we will definitely include, right, without disturbing the existing timeline of the course.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in our first class. So
any more question before I move on?
Yeah, Aditya, you can go ahead.
Okay. Just give me a second. I'm opening my AWS console. Okay, I am presenting my AWS console. Let me know if it is visible. Ganesh, if you can confirm.
Yes, I can able to see. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for confirming. So guys, this is how AWS console look like. I am sure many of you have already seen it multiple times, used it multiple times, right? So, but for those who haven't seen this, this is how the console look like, right? So you have to log into a link called console.aws.com. When you click on this link, it needs for your username and password. But since I have already logged into this, with my username and password. So I'm getting this screen, right? Once you successfully log in, you will get this screen. You will see a lot of different AWS services seen here, right? Apart from that, you can click on this view all services button to see all the plethora of services provided by AWS altogether. I believe at this moment, AWS more than 400 services available, but don't worry, we are not going to use 400 altogether. Even a data engineer not uses all 400 altogether, right? So we uses only a small portion of it, and that small portion I already briefed about in the previous slides. So we will be using Lambda, right? We would be using EMR, we would be using Glue, right? And bunch of different other AWS services. Okay, without further ado, also like this is how the UI look like. You can access your account information here, right? So once we deep dive into the course, I'll talk more about how the AWS service look like, what are the cost part of AWS, how you can access all these things, and multiple things. Okay, so as I mentioned, right, I'll show a very small, very basic AWS streaming pipeline in which I am using two simple AWS servers. One is AWS SQS and the second one is AWS Lambda. For those who don't know, don't worry, right? I am going to talk about all of these services in detail in the upcoming sections, but just to give a flavor of how this look like, right? So I have already created a SQS. So SQS is nothing but simple queuing service, right? Wherein you can put your messages in the queue, right? Which is, very similar to, for example, somebody has commented on a photo of your, right, of a friend's on any social media platform. So as soon as you click on the send button, that comment goes into, right, and it will be added to that photo. Anyone can see the comment, right? And your friends will be notified that, hey, this guy has commented on that photo. So how this is this achieved in the real world, right? So what they use is they use this queuing service wherein they put your comment in the queue in a form of a message, and that queue will be read through any service, cloud service. It could be Lambda, it could be EC2, it could be any different service. So that Lambda will read this message and then displays the information which is available in the message altogether. Okay, so I have a simple queue with me, right? So wherein I can put any message. I have created a Lambda. So this is one of my Lambda. So those who haven't seen Lambda UI, this is how the Lambda UI look like. I have created a function. So this function is written with Python language. I have integrated an SQS with a Lambda. So as soon as I put a message in the queue, this message is going to be read by my Lambda automatically. I will not be doing anything. This Lambda is going to process that message, and then it is going to display the message what exactly I have put. Okay, so let's start to put a message in the queue. Let me send a message. Okay, so the message body will be in JSON format. So for example, let's say we are putting name. Okay, name is what? Demo. And let's put year. Year is what? 2023, which is nothing but 2023. Okay, so I have created a basic message, right? You can add your comment, anything you can add, right? I'm just adding this basic information. As soon as I click on this send message button, this message is successfully sent in the queue and it is ready to be received by my Lambda function. Okay, so this is my Lambda. This Lambda supposed to read this message and display its content, right? Let's see if Lambda is doing or say pulling. Okay, so I'll quickly talk about the basic code of this Lambda. right? So in this Lambda, I'm not doing anything super crazy. I'm doing very simple thing, right? I am reading the SQS message and just printing the body of the message, which is nothing but the name and the year, right? So let's see this same information if this Lambda is getting, right? So you can watch all these information in logs of Lambda, which is nothing but the CloudWatch log. So I'm just going to open the CloudWatch logs for this Lambda. So here I am in the CloudWatch logs, right? So let's open the latest log, right? So in India at this moment, we have the time is around 7:50 and the logs is of 7:49. It means that this is the latest log. If I open this log up, I should see something printed. Let's see what exactly it is. It is opening the logs, right? So can I see anything with the name, demo, and year 2023? Yes, it is. It is right here in front of our eyes, right? So what exactly happened here, guys? Right. So what I did is I just put one message in the queue. I just click on send this message, right? Have I touched Lambda or have I triggered Lambda? No. This Lambda automatically gets triggered with the help of this queue, right? And you know what I did in my Lambda? I just write a simple code to read whatever message I have put in my queue, right? So this, what I did is I just put this thing, and the same thing has been read by Lambda successfully and given as an output to us, right? So what next we can do with this? We can write the same information, right? So first of all, we can transform this in a CSV or in any format, and then we can load it to say any database, right? We can load it to Redshift, we can load it to Aurora, we can load it to Dynamo, right? We can create a flat file and then so save it to S3 bucket as well. So we can do bunch of things with this. So with this basic small demo, I just want to show you how a streaming data engineering pipeline is going to look like, right? It's not a proper streaming pipeline, but it's just an hint of how the streaming pipeline is going to look like when we're going to, the actual demos going forward in our later classes. So if you have any question on this, let me know. Otherwise I'll stop presenting.
You can also ask him if you have any questions about any other services like Redshift, Glue, Athena, Kinesis, or anything. You can able to show him. You can also ask him if you have any other questions about other services, Redshift, Glue, Athena, Kinesis, or anything. So Padsarthi, we are almost done. I'll share you the recording video. You can go through it once. If you have any questions, you can ask him. Padsarthi.
Hello. Actually, I joined late, so I didn't have that much question.
Okay, no problem. I'll share the recording. Just follow it.
Yeah. Thanks.
So any other question from anyone? Srikanth, Durga Prasad, Dilip, Ashish, Anand, Abhishek.
Actually, I'll talk to you first time.
Abhishek, you were asking something like last time. You're from full stack background. So can I come to data engineer or not? Something you're asking. So if you have any questions about that, I can ask him. So if you don't have any questions, then we can wind up the session for today. And the regular classes start from Wednesday. I'm thinking around 8 o'clock in the morning. Aditya is fine for you? 8 p.m. 8 a.m. IST in the morning.
Yeah, we can discuss this offline, Ganesh.